Hey everybody, so we are here, part 3 of this Animalia journal make. We are still waiting for the wolf image to dry. You can see it a little better. See how glossy it's going to be. Still waiting on it to dry though. It's still a little damp, but we're working on it. Our cover is covered, and our front piece is glued on, just ready for our wolf. So we'll set that aside. And what I've done next is I'm kind of working on getting my papers together. I've dyed some paper. It's still drying. There's a whole bunch of it, and I have a little kitchen, and so it's kind of stacked, and I'm having to kind of rotate out my stacks with a fan blowing. It's kind of not ideal, but that's what happens when your area is small. You make the best of it. So in the meantime, what I've done is I think I've decided on 5 signatures for this journal. That is a lot for me. I usually do 1, 2, 3 signatures. This one's going to be 5. And I've gone through my scrapbook pages, all my scrapbook papers, and kind of picked out some that that I think will work well in this. A lot of them have critters on them. Some of them are just animal print. Some of them are, I don't know if you can see this or not, but kind of like a grungy lined print. I don't know if you can see that or not. And what I've done is, to avoid the white, because, you know, that's what we tend to do, is try to get out of not seeing the white. I've taken pages like this page and this page, and I've glued them together. So all my scrapbook pages are glued front and back to something. And I will, once I get them cut down to size, I will, look at that shiny. It's a textured shiny paper. Once I get them cut down to size, then I'll sew around the edges of them. But here we are just now, trying to figure out our sizes, basically. So I've taken, again, 12 by 12 scrapbook paper, glued them back to back, just random. I picked out a whole bunch of them and randomly glued them together, so there's no rhyme or reason, except for this one. This one's just some shiny paper. There's no rhyme or reason to, I did the butterflies on the backs of this or anything like that. They're just glued back to back, again, to avoid the white. And I will have my dyed papers in throughout here. These are just my printed papers, I guess. So what I'm going to do now is, I've got my template, and this is the size I need my papers. It fits in my book just perfect. And so I'm going to go through these stacks of colored paper and cut them down to template, and then I'll be able to sew around them. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to start with this first signature, and my pages are all different sizes, and the reason for that is 12 by 12 does not fold evenly to a, let's see here, what size am I? My pages are 7 wide, and of course 12 by 12 is 6 by 6. So I had to offset my folds so my paper would come to the end of my book. And of course my dyed paper, all my dyed paper are going to come, let me see, I think this is an example. This is a page of my dyed paper, and it will come all the way to the end with no problem. So, where did my template go? Oh, it's right there. Yeah, so it will come all the way to the end with no problem. So there we have it. So on to, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut down these pages, cut them down to size so they'll fit. Because, you know, right now, they're not going to fit. I've got about 2-3 inches hanging out the top. So I'm going to cut these all together, and see they're starting to come apart even where I've glued them. But once I get them cut down to size, I'll be able to sew around the edges of them. I think that'll work out just fine. So I'm going to line my pages up with my template down here. And I'm going to clip them together. Sorry to be bumping you around. Clip them together. And then I'm going to make sure we're lined up straight. And just for an extra, so I'm not cutting into my cardboard template, I am going to put my ruler there. And I'll use these little offcuts. I'll set them in a scrap pile and use them first to when I start creating ephemera and all that. So my edges pretty much all come to the end, but I don't know if you can see there's just a little hair that goes past my template. So we're gonna trim that off. Probably need to get a new blade going on here. Okay. Let me snap a new blade here. Okay, that's good. Set you aside. Okay, so we have number 1 signature. Set you aside. Here's number 2. We'll tap everybody down. Make sure everybody's squeezed in there nice and good. Put our template on. Line us up. Clamp us down. And we'll line us up again. And this, I'm going to have to trim the bottom of this because where I've glued the pages together, one of them's kind of hanging out being contrary, so I'll have to do a little trim. Line us up so we're not cutting into our template. I don't know why we're not wanting to cut. And set our scraps aside. And do a little trimmy trim. And then let's see if I can do a little trim on the bottom here. It's just a little bit, and it's just on one page, so hopefully it won't snag. It did snag, but that's okay. And by snag, usually if your paper's real thin, it wants to snag. But we're going to work with it. That's 2 signatures. Third signature, tuck everybody in. Everybody down flush. Line everybody straight. Throw it in our scrap pile. And everybody's good there. Let me trim the edge here. Okay. Moving right along. Everybody's tucked in. Everybody's flush with the template. Line us up. Okay. Oh, I'm going to trim our edges here a little bit. Moving right along, moving right along. Hopefully, it's getting kind of late this evening, but hopefully the wolf image will be dried in the morning, and my papers will be dried in the morning. And so tomorrow we can get that wolf image on the cover and get that done. And then get our other paper cut down. And I think I'm probably going to have to, I don't know. I'm thinking several thoughts right now. I think what I'll do is I'll have to cut this again when I get my dyed paper in this, when I get them tucked into the signatures. I'll have to cut it down again, but that's okay. It'll give us a chance to fix any issues we may or may not have. Okay, I think I've got my 5 signatures going on here. And they should be all cut down to size. And they're going to tuck in there. Mighty nice. Mighty nice. Okay. And of course, like I said, we'll still have plenty of room to add more pages because we're not gator mouth, obviously. So this is working out pretty good. So now what I'll do is now that I got these pages cut down, I think what I'll do is go ahead and I'll sew my edges, basically sewing the fronts to the backs. And I'm probably going to play around with my trims. I have a bunch of different trims here. I'm probably going to play around with these and get some of these while I'm sewing edges. Might as well go ahead and sew some trim on some edges, don't you think? I think. So, I love this right here. Look at that trim. How cool is that? So yeah, I think that's what our next step is to sew my papers together. Because again, I've got my scrapbook papers front and back, and they'll come apart because they're just, see, they're just glue stick glued. So